Well, hi again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. This is the NFL wrap-up show for Week 15, the National Football League. The final game is a Monday nighter. Pittsburgh is way ahead of Miami. It was 28-3 when we went on the air. We will talk about that game in specific once we are done, but let's first talk about who's with us today. Joey Clinkscales, former general manager, former pro scout, personnel director. He has cleaned trash cans. He has done everything in an NFL lineup. He has also made big-time decisions, and we're so grateful that he's with us. Our NFL and our NCAA draft analyst and player expert, personnel-wise. Brian LeBel is with us, and I'm Harper LeBel. Pleased to be with you, everybody. Joey, let's start with you. NFL Week 15. I've got friends. They're calling me, said, did you see what these referees did? I can't comment about it, although I know personally I've had some issues where the NFL office has called our team Monday morning to say, yeah, we blew it, but can't do anything about how it ended the game. You've probably seen a few of those and been involved as well. The injuries, however, Joey, a lot of big-time injuries. A lot of teams are going to be scrambling here to fulfill a roster spot, and in many cases, two, here with just a couple weeks left to go.
Yeah, I think the injuries are the thing this week that have kind of taken over the NFL. The obviously the major injury to Mahomes, which ended his season, the injury to Micah Parsons, which ended his season. I think Green Bay also lost a tackle in that game to ACL as well. And then I think with Christian Watson, who had the chest injury, and he left the game in an ambulance, but he's since been cleared. So just the injuries around the league, not only those two major guys, but you have a multitude of other guys that this time of year some of those things happen. It happens all year long, but obviously the guys like the Mahomes and the Michael Parsons, when you have your top tier guys get hurt, then it's really put the league on notice from a standpoint of injury.
Yeah, it certainly has. When you get, superstars like Mahomes. And Brian, you had a stat about Mahomes. Talk a little bit about the injuries, but a lot of fun games, a lot of important ones also taking place this week.
Yeah, he's starting the second chapter of the Brady story. The parallels. They both tear their ACL against the Chargers. The 3 Super Bowls. It was just something I ended up seeing when I was on Twitter that it was kind of interesting. I think they're both in their same year they got injured as well, but. It is part of the business. It's unfortunate that you see a guy like Mahomes and Parsons get hurt, and the time of year too. If it would be a lot better if it was the beginning of the year, because now these guys are probably going to miss at minimum probably the first handful of weeks next season, rehabbing and recovering, and they're probably going to be behind the 8 ball. Even if they tear through their rehab process, they're probably not going to be 100% again until maybe halfway through the season. It's an unfortunate part of the sport. It happens. It's just From this point on, though, you kind of have to be next man up for the teams that haven't been eliminated from the playoffs. Like the Packers, they got a big game next week. They got to try to right the ship, and still, hopefully, they got to put themselves in a position where they can still contend for a playoff spot. And they were thinking further just a couple hours ago, but here we are.
Yeah, Packers got leapfrogged. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. A team that has really needed some consistency at quarterback play. Let's start with Thursday night's game. We're going to talk about the Atlanta Falcons going to Tampa. The Falcons were 4-9 going into this. They end up getting the win. 29-28 is the final. Kirk Cousins throws for 3 touchdowns, 373 yards. Really a great performance by the team, if you will. Brian, we'll start with you and the Falcons. They rush for over 111 yards. They get 5 sacks. Is this one of those things too little, too late, or is this just a good sign for what you'll be seeing next year?
Well, there were reports coming out that they had kind of given up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like all the negativity surrounding the organization and whether or not Raheem Morris is going to lose his job or he should have already, and a lot of losing. But the NFC South is a real weird division right now. After this week, there isn't a single team over 500. I think the Bucs have kind of taken on Joey talks about it all the time, taking the personality of their coach. I think the Bucs have taken the personality of the team they've been across the last 2 weeks, whether it's the Saints and the Falcons. But some real sloppy football. It's a Thursday night game within the division. Those are, those games are always going to be short in the playbook. My best against your best, and let's see what happens. And, fortunately for the Falcons, Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts kind of a best game of his career so far, interestingly enough. And it was enough to get a win on the road at Tampa Bay against a team that they've really struggled against for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, no kidding. And Joey, let's talk a little bit about Tampa. Baker Mayfield throws for 272, 2 touchdowns. They rush for 88 yards, which really isn't earth-shattering in any way, shape, or form. They were winning games by this score, or maybe a field goal with no time left on the clock. Now they're losing them. Tell me a little bit about what you're feeling here if you're a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan.
Well, I think that the thing that stands out watching the game the other night was defensively. They're struggling defensively, keeping the score down. I mean, I don't think they're a great tackling team at times. Linebacker play has been pretty average. They have a tough time stopping explosive backs. Bijan Robinson, he did a lot of work carrying the ball. I mean, he had a lot of big plays, and I think those kind of backs bother them. Anytime the big fella in the middle was out of the game, they went right up the middle.
Vita Vea, yeah.
They went right up the middle if you paid attention. And Baker had a solid game. It wasn't his best outing, and he had his full array of wide receivers this week. And Mike Evans came back and had a big game. So it was interesting how they played. But, we have to give Atlanta credit. They have not given up. They have not quit on Raheem. And James Pierce probably had his best game as a NFL player with 2 sacks. So, Atlanta's still playing hard. And Tampa, they like Brian said, they're playing to the level of competition. They lose this week to Atlanta. They lose to the Saints at home. So it's interesting what they're going through right now. And to have a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter and lose that game, you can see why Todd Bowles was really infuriated and frustrated with the team.
Yeah, this team's come too far in the past couple of years from a playoff perspective to be able to accept that in December. So obviously they'll be looking to turn things around. That's the Thursday night game. 5-9 now, Atlanta. They end up winning 29-28. They beat Tampa Bay at home. Tampa's now 3-4 at home, so they have less than 500. Let's look at the Sunday games, and there was a full slate of action, including Cleveland and Chicago. The Bears at home, they go to 10-4. Williams throws for 242 yards. He's got 2 touchdowns. DeAndre Swift rushes on 18 carries for 98 yards. Joey, let's start with you. They're able to leapfrog back into first place with the Packer loss. We'll talk about Green Bay in a little bit, but Chicago just they get through against a bad team, and this is a win they really needed to have. They got it. They dominated. They didn't have to work too hard for it, but it's still NFL play. You got to play hard, and they certainly did.
Yeah, it was really cold. I'm gonna start by saying that it was really cold in Chicago this weekend, and they played really well at home. I mean, Caleb keeps doing what he's done all year. I mean, he's playing for the most part mistake-free football, not trying to take too many big plays, but again, every now and again, just like in this game, he'll make a couple throws like, wow, it's not many guys in this league can do some of the things that Caleb can do. And guess what? They were able to run the ball. They stuck to their plan. They were able to run the ball surprisingly well against Cleveland. They kept Myles Garrett from having a field day, although he did have a sack and a half, but they kept him from having a 4-sack game. And they just played a solid game, and they just kept piling up points defensively. Again, they played pretty good against a young quarterback who they forced into some interceptions. And it was a big day and a good win for the Bears, because that was a little bit of a trap game for the Bears, I thought. And they came out and they jumped on them quick.
Yeah, Bears, Brian, need to play against Detroit and Green Bay again here before the season ends. I agree with Joey. It's just one of these games that you go against a team that you should beat, you do it. That's what good teams do, and Chicago's now a good team.
Yeah, I think the game plan was run the ball. We're better than these guys. Let's keep our quarterback upright. Let's keep him healthy. Let's keep number 95 away from him as much as we can, and it worked. Cleveland struggled against the run the last couple of weeks, as we've seen. Tennessee did a really good job against them the week prior, but the Bears all of a sudden look like a force to be reckoned with the NFC. I think they're the best team in the North right now because, one, they're the healthiest, and two, the Lions are kind of in a really tough spot. They're still trying to kind of figure out where they're at this point in the season because they're losing some good teams. And then also they got wins against Philadelphia, and they're beating other teams you're going to see in the playoffs. So Chicago's rolling. They're getting hot at the right time. They're getting healthy too. They're kind of the opposite of everybody else on the injury spectrum. They're getting some guys back this week I think Tremaine Edwards is being reactivated. He's going to be huge for the defense. But, Cleveland's still trying to figure it out what they got offensively and, quarterback, running back, receiver going forward. Shador doesn't have a ton of help out there, and you can kind of see that. It was exhibited on Sunday. But this Bears team is good. The defense was kind of the concern that we had with this unit coming into this year, and they've kind of shaken off the naysayers and first place in the NFC North, and both the other guys are kind of falling off at the right time. So looking for some January football in Chicago.
Yeah, again, nice win by the Bears. They leapfrog back into first place with the Packer loss. So congratulations, Chicago. Next game is Baltimore at Cincinnati. Here's one of those ones. Joey, I'll start with you on this one. Cincinnati lays a goose egg. They lose 24-0. They fall to 4-10. But Baltimore, Derrick Henry rushes for exactly 100 yards on 11 carries. They dominated where they need to. They're 7-7. I'm still kind of rooting for Baltimore, the comeback kids. They lose 5 games out of their first 6. They come out of the gate sloppy, and they're doing everything to fight for a playoff spot. They're going to have to win the division in order to make that happen. But 24-0 is the final here. Your thoughts, Joey?
Well, again, Baltimore does what Baltimore does. I mean, they want to be a team that can run the ball and play good defense, and that's what they were able to do on Sunday. It was a bad weather game. You had snow, you had cold. It was ugly. I mean, Cincinnati knows that their only way to victory is come out and to throw the ball, and they threw the ball a lot Sunday. I mean, Joe Burrow threw the ball almost 40 times. No touchdown passes, 2 interceptions. Chase had a big game. Jamar Chase with 132 yards. However, they just could not get any kind of continuity going during the game. They would always have a mistake or a penalty. And again, give Baltimore's defense credit. When they needed to step up during the game, they were able to step up. And again, they are a team that thrives on being able to run the ball and play mistake-free football. You look what the quarterback did. I mean, he threw the ball 12 times.
Yeah.
12 times. I mean, that's a winning formula in cold weather.
Yeah, certainly is. Brian, Joey mentions the defense. It's been a struggle all year in Baltimore for their defense to play well enough for them to be in the game at the end. Didn't have any issues in this one. Not only do they throw a shutout, but is it fair to say they dominated where they need to, and they helped the offense just enough? Is it enough for their defense to be able to play like this the rest of the year, or don't we know yet?
I mean, Cincinnati's a pretty bad football team. Joe Burrow, his headspace, he said some things this week where it sounds like he's not fully there and with the team, just with some football stuff. T. Higgins is out. They're banged up. A lot of negatives in Cincinnati right now. And you can see it on the scoreboard, right? Baltimore said, hey, this is a game we got to have. This is a must win. And the Bengals just kind of weren't there. But anytime you can do it, it doesn't really matter what opponent. The Ravens, from where they were week 2, week 3, week 4 to where they are now is night and day. And it's good for them, right? They've headed in the right direction. They figured out their identity on defense. They played well against a team. Cincinnati, surprisingly, has run the ball pretty well the last couple of weeks. And Baltimore, in nasty conditions, was able to say, we're not going to allow that to happen, which is good. They're getting healthy. They're right there with Pittsburgh, who's winning and playing right now for the division. They're playing for the playoffs. And right now, if Lamar Jackson only has to throw the ball 12 times, you can score 24 points. That's pretty good. That's something like Joey said. You can write home about that. And, you run the ball, you control the clock, you can do a lot of things. You can hide a lot of discrepancies, whether it be on offense or defense. And this Ravens team is rolling. They're getting hot at the right time.
Well, let me read some crazy stats out for you. I'm sitting here looking at total yards. Baltimore had 317. Cincinnati had 298.
Yeah.
First downs, 18 for Cincinnati, 15 for Baltimore. But the key one is Cincinnati controlled the ball almost 2-1.
Yeah.
They had the ball 39 minutes, 19 seconds. Since Baltimore 20 minutes 41 seconds, so they had the ball almost twice as long with less yards. So it tells you that they were playing a bend but don't break defense. That's Baltimore I'm talking about, and they were efficient with the times that they had the ball because they accumulated more total yards and rushing yards in the game.
Yeah, Cincinnati, obviously, by trailing the whole way, needed to do some things offensively. They weren't able to run some different plays, get a few first downs, move the sticks, but obviously no points. So Baltimore's defense and the team ends up at 7-7 after this game. Cincinnati falls to 4-10. Brian, we'll start with you. Next game, we're going to look at the Chargers, 16-13 over Kansas City in Kansas City. You made mention a little bit earlier. You may want to repeat exactly some of the statistics regarding Patrick Mahomes and his injury. We obviously feel for him. It's a tough loss for the league. Here's your true superstar of the game right now going down with the knee injury. This will carry over into next year for obvious reasons because of the timing of it and the amount of time it does take to recover. But Chiefs are all but eliminated. They fall to 6-8. Chargers all but given a spot in the playoffs at 10-4, 16-13 the final. Your thoughts here on this one?
Kudos to the Chargers because when Herbert went down, he got hurt a couple weeks ago and they weren't in a great spot. The offense hasn't really done a whole heck of a lot consistently as far as the season is concerned, not just the last couple of weeks, but they're 2-0 since that Herbert injury, and they beat both teams that were representing each conference in the Super Bowl last season. So big wins for them. They're figuring it out. It's not pretty. The offense isn't great. The defense is playing very, very well. They're doing what they need to. The Chiefs have been up and down. They've been pretty bad all season. We've kind of ragged on them. We're just kind of waiting till the final bell, as it would be, is where they actually going to get eliminated. And here they are, not in the playoffs for what seems like forever. But the Mahomes thing sucks. It's just, he's a great player. It's fun to watch him. And, it hurts the league. But this is the monkey off the back for a lot of Chargers fans, right? Kansas City. And not only that, you eliminate them from playoff contention and put yourself in prime position to, go play some extra games in January. It's got to feel really good for them. And, wish everybody a speedy recovery, obviously, Mahomes especially. But it'll be interesting to see what Travis Kelce's decision, too, is after this, whether or not he's going to come back for another year and what this offense is going to look like for at least the first month next season. It could be just kind of, Frankenstein's monster, just putting pieces together and seeing what works. But, it's part of the game. It's unfortunate injuries happen, but it's where we're at.
And Joey, Brian made mention of going on the road, beating Kansas City in their building and doing it in a manner where you eliminate them from the playoffs. There had to be a little bit of extra joy in the locker room there for the Chargers to not only do that to Kansas City and promote yourself, but be able to take that monkey off of your back. I don't know if the dynasty of Kansas City has ended and the legacy is going to change forever, but it's changed now, and the Chargers had something to do with that.
Yeah, I think a couple things stood out in this game. I thought the Chargers were the more physical team in this game. Watching them play, I think they really came after Kansas City. The Chargers defense really made a stand a lot of times in this game. So I was really impressed with their defense, even more so than their offense. Justin Herbert is, he's a tough nut to crack. He really is, because he's competitive. He'll get yards on the ground with his feet. And Amarian Hampton came back and he ran tough. They were committed to the run, although he only rushed for 61 yards, but they were really committed to running the ball. And they were just a more physical team. And as we like to say, the team that can control the line of scrimmage usually wins the game on both sides of the ball, and they were able to do that in this game. It's really unfortunate about Patrick Mahomes. That ACL, it sounds like it was just the ACL. He didn't have any other problems. So, that's a 6 to 9 month injury that he's dealing with, and he'll come back and hopefully he'll be better than ever. But they have a lot of questions to answer, starting with Kelce, whether he's coming back. Chris Jones did not have his best year, and Chris Jones and Mahomes both are big. They have big numbers on the salary cap for next year, and obviously you can restructure that. You can turn cap into cash and do different things and fix that. But it'll be interesting where they go from here. The offensive line, who was not very good this year, will be a year older. So the rookie left tackle, who was probably their best offensive lineman when it's all said and done, will have a year more experience under his belt. Their guard, who hasn't played the last 2 or 3 games, who's the highest paid offensive lineman, will come back healthy. So the offensive line should not be a weak point like it was this year. And that was really in my opinion, they did Patrick Mahomes a disservice this year with that offensive line. They put too much weight on his shoulders to try to make chicken salad out of chicken, too many times this year. They really did.
Well, 10th win there for the Chargers, 8th loss for Kansas City. That 8 loss does eliminate them from the playoff contention. So unfortunately, as Chiefs fans will know, the run may not be over, but certainly it has been postponed for this year. So congratulations to the LA Chargers. They end up winning on the road, just like the Ravens did, and just like the Buffalo Bills did. Buffalo is now 10-4. They go into New England. I certainly thought that this would be a close game. The spread thought that Buffalo was going to win. They were correct. The number wasn't exactly right, but Joel, I'll start with you. 28 second half points. The Bills were down. They only had 7 points in the first half. They end up winning 35-31 to really give themselves some life. They're 10-4. The Patriots fall to 11-3, and this really does, with 3 weeks left to go, open up the division again for the fans.
Well, if you only watch this game to halftime, you missed a treat, because you would have thought the Bills were dead in the water at halftime. I mean, everybody had Josh Allen. Everybody had a sad look on their face coming, going into the locker room, but coming out, they had a renewed vigor, and it showed. I mean, and the thing about Josh Allen is, once he puts that cape on, that cape is dictated by the way he runs the ball, not necessarily by his arm. It's with his legs, and he did a lot of amazing things with his legs in this game to keep this game alive. And it was a great second half. I mean, James Cook keeps running for 100 yards. I mean, they keep finding ways to run the ball effectively. And again, for a team that really does not have a number one receiver, they're able to spread the ball around when needed. I think they do a great job of passing effectively and efficiently, despite not having that number one go-to guy. So it was a really impressive win for the Bills. I really didn't think they would do it. I picked the Patriots before the game started. And I still have confidence in the Patriots, although, the weather conditions and everything, really, I thought they didn't handle it as well as Buffalo did.
TreVeyon Henderson, Brian, rushes for 148 yards. He has 2 touchdowns. Patriots get their third loss. They were ahead 24-7. Is this a breakdown that just basically doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot at home because it happened at one point or another during the season? We still have plenty of time to get ourselves ready for the playoffs, and not only that, but we're still in first place. Tell me a little bit about the Patriots and what they're going through right now.
Well, they did what everybody who's been successful against the Bills this year has done. They ran the ball. They ran all over Buffalo in the first half. Drake May had 2 rushing touchdowns in the first quarter. He was doing his Josh Allen impression all up and down the field for the first 30 minutes of this one. But Buffalo did something they haven't done all season in their losses. That's adjust. They came back out at halftime. They said, all right, we're going to be better against the run. I mean, they something gave, right? They did something differently. And I don't know if it was schematic. I don't know what it was. But other than one big run by TreVeyon Henderson in the second half, he was spectacular. You mentioned him. He's going to be a really good piece for them for the next coming years. And I think a lot of people are wondering why it took him this long to insert him more into the lineup. And I know you got Ramondre Stevenson or whatever. But it's a little concerning from a passing perspective because when the Patriots needed to move the ball through the air, they couldn't. And that was apparent in the second half. And that's something that Drake May, listen, he's still an MVP candidate, but that's something he's done all year very, very well. He's been efficient, not a ton of yards, but he hasn't needed it, right? He's going to go 21 of 26. He'll give you 265 and 2 TDs. And it's more than enough to win with their defense, which, again, in the second half, they fell apart. It was a tale of 2 teams, really. The Patriots' first half team looked like a legit Super Bowl contender, and it looked back to the Brady days. In the second half, they kind of came back down to earth and were reminded that, hey, this has been Buffalo's division for, the last couple seasons.
Buffalo ends up winning this one again. 35-31 is the final. They move within a game of first place. They're at 10-4. The Patriots 11-3, and Buffalo picks up a important and somewhat critical road win here late in the season in New England. Let's look at the next game that we're going to talk about. Another road team going out of their building and doing quite well. Commanders 4-10 now with a 29-21 victory against the New York Giants. Giants have been kind of reeling with injuries all year. Brian, I'll start with you. Commanders really needed this one. And a year ago, we were talking about the Commanders in a completely different light, but this was an important win for them as well.
Yeah, I think rallying around, you had some gruesome injuries the last couple of weeks when, Jaden Daniels got hurt the first time. that's a real demoralizing thing to see happen as a player. Like watching your quarterback go down in that manner is not good. And then watching a guy like Zach Ertz, who's a veteran, he's a leader in the locker room. He's been consistent for them. And you have that last week. And I think this says a lot about Dan Quinn and this team and how they responded to that, right? It's a divisional game. They really didn't have anything to play for. They're eliminated. Other than it being a division opponent, right? Obviously, you want to beat those guys, but they showed some moxie, right? They showed something. And going into next year, because I don't think Washington's going to make a coaching change. And I think the majority of this roster is still going to be kept intact and around Jaden Daniels. But it's good to see a team, a lot like what the Falcons did this week. You're rallying around your coach. You're rallying around your fans to win a game like this. If you're the Giants, this has been to say the least, a forgetful season, right? Let's get Jackson Dart healthy. Let's salvage as much of this as we can, and let's try to get a good pick and move on to next year, because it's been ugly, and it was ugly against a Washington team that's really been reeling the last couple of weeks too, and they just they couldn't get it done.
Yeah, some close losses for both teams, but a big win here for the Commanders. Joey, you want to talk a little bit about Washington, or would you rather just address a little bit what New York is going through right now in a roster where you got all of your stars, all the guys that are going to be players for you in the future seem to be injured and not able to play. How do you rally around that?
Well, I'll start with Washington just from the standpoint of Jaden Daniels. They shut him down for the year, so he won't come back. So Marcus Mariota will be the quarterback for them for the rest of the year. So I think that was a wise thing to do by Washington, because they there's nothing good can come out from having Jaden play the final 3 games of the season. So I think that was good. For the Giants, it's good experience for Jackson Dart right now, despite not having his top receiver, top runner. It's a lot of tops for that team that's sitting on the sideline and at home because of injuries. So, but again, for young quarterbacks and a young team, they're being evaluated for whomever the next coach will be. And I don't think the coach they have now will retain. Will get the interim label taken off. I think he'll probably be gone. Experience is always the best teacher, and I think that's what's going on now in New York. It's a big evaluation process to see where they need to improve leading into the 2026 draft.
We don't know what's going to happen. Does Bill Belichick get a phone call, at least a phone call in an interview?
Well, I don't know, and the reason why I say that part of being a great coach and a great person is how things happen when things aren't necessarily in your favor. And I'm not sure he left the right way, if I'm being quite honest. So I'm not sure the fact that he would like to coach again in the NFL. I'm not sure his phone is going to ring. If it is, it would be by the New York Giants, I think, because I think that was a team he would always he would have loved to have coached. So I think if it's going to ring, it'll be by the New York Giants.
Yeah, that's why I asked. I'm not sure if anything is going to happen, and I'm just speculating here, of course. And he's so close to Shula. What's he need? 2 seasons worth of wins if he ends up 7 or 8 wins per season. So good for him.
Let me ask this: you think any chance Tom Brady and the Raiders give him a call? Coach them next year?
Belichick?
I would be surprised. And yes, I do think the Raiders job is going to open up. I would be surprised. I would be surprised. Although, I wouldn't be surprised. I say that, but I wouldn't be. I'm not sure Tom would want to do it. But I believe Mark Davis might want to do it. So that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Imagine Tom Brady being the boss and Bill Belichick having to answer to him at cap review time, or something like that, or the trade deadline. My goodness, that's tale of 2 cities, certainly. All right, well, we've talked about some road wins. Let's end that now. Las Vegas, the Raiders, they end up going to Philadelphia. 31-0 is the final here. The second shutout here of the day. Here we get about halfway through the schedule. Joey, you've been a part of the Raiders organization for years. Pete Carroll's been there. He's in his mid-70s. He's not chewing the gum the same way that he did over there on the sidelines. This is just an ugly loss for the Raiders, and the Philadelphia Eagles certainly needed this win. This is one of those more important ones for them to build momentum to get back in the playoffs.
This was pretty bad. This was a pretty bad showing offensively. It was a pretty bad showing defensively. It was just a pretty bad showing by the Raiders coming on the East Coast to play the Eagles. The weather was cold. They're used to playing warm weather and playing indoors in a comfy new building per se, but it was not pretty. It was not pretty. Offensively, I don't think they may have gotten 100 yards total offense in the game. I know there was, I think at halftime they had like 20 yards total offense in the game. It was really bad. Kenny Pickett finished with 64 yards passing, to tell you exactly where they are. And Ashton Jenney had 35 yards on 9 carries. So it was a pretty bad offensive performance. And I don't know where they go from here. Like I said, and I guess we should be talking about the Eagles because they're the ones that won the game, and this wasn't really close. But I just don't know where the Raiders go from here because I think I'm not sure Pete Carroll is the guy for a complete overhaul, if that makes sense. And I think the Raiders are in a complete overhaul process right now. So I'm not sure it's a good fit for either person, the team or Pete.
Yeah, it's a tough call there. But Brian, the Eagles at 9-5, they're not blowing people away from a statistical standpoint, but they're doing enough to win right now. They've got their tougher games here in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, this was a get-right game. They needed this one, right? If nothing else, get back in the win column, move in the right direction. Raiders are a bad football team. They're very bad, and the Eagles needed to beat up on them, and they did. The elements were in their favor. They're at home. Everything was, other than the short week, everything was pushing in the Eagles' direction as far as, they should handle this game easily. I'll give you a stat on the Raiders. They've given up at least 4 sacks in their last 6 games. And 2 of those they gave up, I believe it was more 7+. They had the 10-sack game the Browns had against them. So I think you can break down all the filming, you do whatever, but I think, we mention all the time, Joey, you do, is it starts up front, right? The offensive, defensive line. It's hard to get your guys going. It doesn't matter who's playing quarterback or who you draft at running back or who you have at tight end when the 5 guys up front can't block anybody. And that's just kind of been consistent for them this year. It's just a recipe for disaster going against this Eagles team because that's the bread and butter of their team. Their front 7 is very, very good. They showcase that week in and week out. And the only downside to this team has been the offense, right? It's Jalen Hurts and it's Saquon Barkley. It's, hey, what's wrong with these guys? But the defense has done their part all season, and they did so again on Sunday. They exceeded, obviously, expectations again. Raiders fall to 2-12. Eagles are 9-5. Philadelphia, obviously, still in contention. Playoff, obviously, and winning the division is within sights. It's up to them. They control their own destiny. Next, let's look at the New York Jets. They end up losing. This one is 48-20 to Jacksonville on the road. Jacksonville is 10-4. Guys, I'll be candid with you. I have kind of been wishy-washy on Jacksonville. They're not playing the greatest opponents. They don't have the toughest schedule, but they're sure taking advantage of it. 10 wins right now at this point in the season. They have certainly been a surprise. And Trevor Lawrence had another nice game. Maybe not a record breaker, but certainly well enough to be able to pat himself on the back in a 10th. And a division-leading 10th win, by the way. So let's talk a little bit about Jacksonville.
Well, Trevor threw for 330 yards, and he was the team leading rusher with 51 yards. So, hey, he accounted for almost 400 yards of offense alone.
Yeah.
And this was probably his best game as a pro. Now, that being said, we're talking about the Jets, and there are a lot of arrows being thrown at the Jets right now, and rightfully so. And it's amazing. So they fired the defense coordinator today.
Yep.
Which is kind of perplexing because you might, in my opinion, if you're going to fire him, you let him go at the end of the season for the simple point of now you're in my opinion, it looks like you're pointing at the guy saying that it's your fault. Okay, when offensively they have been really putrid most of the year, and the offense coordinator is still employed. So if you're in house and you're comparing those things, I just think you play out the last 2-3 games and kind of go from there. But that's not my call. That's their call, and for whatever reason, that's the call they made. But the Jets are a bad football team. I think the only team worse in the league right now are the Raiders, to be quite honest with you.
and maybe the Giants. But Giants,
the Giants
for
are
a
better
different
than
reason.
DC. Yeah.
For a different reason.
Yes.
Brian, your thoughts here. Let's talk a little bit about the Jets, but let's focus on Jacksonville and what they still need yet to do with the collapse of the Eagles. The Eagles of Indianapolis in the division.
Well, I mean, when you trade away your two best players on defense, there's only so much you can do for Steve Wilks, right? Like they gutted this roster's been gutted. You have your backup quarterback. You still have Breece Hall, but I mean, he was the guy we thought would be traded. You trade Sauce Gardner, you trade Quentin Williams. I mean, obviously the idea is a long haul, right? When you do that, you're saying we're going to acquire picks, we're going to acquire capital, we're going to try to build going forward because we just don't have it this year. But these outcomes are expected, right? This is a good Jacksonville team. I know. I said earlier, I said I need to see more consistency. I need to see Trevor Lawrence play well, stack it together a couple weeks, and he's done that. And this team looks really, really good. Them and Houston look phenomenal in the AFC South, which if you would ask me a month ago, I'd have said, no, Indianapolis has it easily. But it's crazy how much the tide has turned as far as the playoff picture in the AFC and the AFC South, particularly. But there's only so much you can do when Brady cooks your quarterback and you're throwing backups out there, man. It's just, especially in the time of year where you got to go play a team that's hot on the road, and I think their roster's better top to bottom, and it's just, it's an expected outcome. I think it's unfair for Steve Wilks, but I think he's a good DC. I think he's going to land on his feet. Jaguars are getting a little scary now. I'm not really worried about them, but I think they're a team right now that maybe you don't want to have to see in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, 48 points, certainly a nice way to set the table, and getting your 10th win and doing that at home makes Jacksonville a division leader for right now. Houston ends up going they double up the score here against Arizona. We've talked a little bit about Arizona. They're 3-11 right now. Cardinals come in to Houston. It's not a long trip, but it's just long enough that you can't blame the trip or anything like that. They couldn't do anything against Houston. Texans defense is really good. Brian, we'll start with you. They double up the points. It's 40-20 is the final. Houston is now 9-5 to keep themselves close in the division.
Yeah, CJ Stroud is playing good football. The defense has been consistent all year, but CJ getting back, being healthy. Nico Collins is getting involved. They're running the ball better. They're able to throw the ball down the field. They're converting some of these third and mediums now. The offense looks good. It looks like it did 2 years ago in Stroud's rookie year. And then, last year everyone thought that the Texans were going to be a force to be reckoned with and Super Bowl aspirations and everything, and it kind of came back down to reality. But this team they're figuring it out, and they're playing good ball. I mean, again, like a lot of other teams, they're playing good ball when they need to. Now, this is a pretty bad Arizona team. There's about 4 players on this team that I look at, and I would say, yes, these are good players, the guys you absolutely have to retain, but everyone else is kind of, gigantic question mark on who'll be the quarterback or where they're going to go next year. Both your running backs are out, right? Harrison didn't play. I'm not sure if Michael Wilson played in this game at receiver either, so it's kind of to be expected, but the Houston defense, it's a daunting task going up against those guys. And, the Cardinals are just an unfortunate season because we talked about them. Remember, they had all those close games, and we thought maybe they could contend in the NFC West, but to get 20-40 is I don't even know if it does it as much justice because I think the Texans really beat up on them in this game.
Joey, your thoughts?
I don't have a ton to add. I mean, Arizona is funny. I look at the stats, and they've thrown since Jacoby Brissett has been the quarterback. They've thrown for a lot of yards. They've done a lot of things good on offense. But guess what? I don't think they've won a game since Kyler Murray wasn't the quarterback. So do you want to have stats or do you want to have wins? And the wins aren't coming. Despite how much offense you have, the wins aren't coming. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Again, I'll reiterate it. I think Kyler Murray is probably taking his last snap as a Cardinal quarterback. But until they fix the defense, until they fix the running game, I think we're always going to see Arizona as a bottom tier team. Yeah.
Well, Arizona 3-11 right now. Houston is 9-5. Let's go to the next game that we're going to talk about. Green Bay goes on the road to Denver. They end up losing the ball game 26-34 as the final, so 34-26. Let's do it the right way. Let's talk about the Denver Broncos a little bit. But this is not only a specific loss here for Green Bay, but also from a personnel perspective. Guys, there's some injuries here, and these are some big ones that they need to talk about and have to address right away. Is this a 2-for-1 whammy for Green Bay? Not only do you lose the game, but enough of your key players that this might be very difficult to come back from.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it'll be tough. The receiver will be back. So if they play next Sunday, as long as it's not a short week, he'll probably play. But obviously, the Michael Parsons injury is devastating for a team that has relied on their defense to be the catalyst of everything that they do. Jordan Love, again, in the big games, he seemed to play a little bit inconsistent. 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Josh Jacobs played really well, especially in the first half. But Green Bay needs to find a way to close out and finish games with consistency and not have Jordan Love. And again, from a numerical standpoint this year, his numbers have been great. But watching him play, the misses he has sometimes are kind of mind-boggling. And on the flip side of that, Nick keeps getting better. I would say, despite what the numbers say, the 4 touchdown passes, he threw a couple balls this past Sunday that made you say, hey, this kid's got a real chance of being a really, really good quarterback. And maybe 4 weeks ago, I may not have said that because, he'll take off and run, but he uses his legs to his advantage. And again, I go back to their defense. Their defense sets the tone for everything they do. So the Broncos are a team to be reckoned with in these playoffs coming up.
Yeah, Brian, my thought here is if I'm Denver, well, we haven't been real sure. We beat some teams that we needed to. We're 11-2 going into this one. I think they can stick their chest out a little bit. This might be a posterized type win, at least in the locker room, and the perspective of, you know what, we're playing some of the better teams now, and we're beating them enough to where we're dominating when we need to, and it's not close like what we've had from earlier games in the season. I think they're really finding themselves.
Yeah, this pass rush is relentless. They're the best in the league at getting after the quarterback, and that's Houston's very, very good. There's some other teams that are very, very good, but they got some dogs up front. The Broncos do, and it's relentless. And you can look at the numbers for Jordan Love, and they were not good. Obviously, I don't think he played a great game, but he's under duress a lot of that time, and that's by design. That's what Denver's done. Sean Payton's done a phenomenal job of saying, "Hey, we're going to build this roster on the defense. We're going to get a quarterback." I think the Bo Nix decision, I think that's one thing that people talked about in the whole, we wanted Bo Nix the whole time, and whatever you want to say about that. But I think Bo Nix was the most NFL ready guy because he had the most experience at that point in time. And I think Sean Payton knew that. And I think he gave the best chance to win immediately, which it was, listen, this roster was in shambles a couple years ago. You had Russell Wilson eating up all that money. They didn't have a first round pick. And to be where they are now, they're 12-2, and they just beat a very good Green Bay team at home, but still. Now they're outright first place in the AFC, and they got a chance to get home field advantage all the way through. Bo Nix looks really, really good. He's progressed really well. They're getting everybody involved. The running game has been good. It hasn't been spectacular, but RJ Harvey, did enough this week to help them win the game. Broncos look like a really complete football team. I think it really just depends on how well Bo Nix plays against some of these teams in the postseason, but there's no reason that they can't show up on Sunday and play with anybody.
Yeah, they maintained a 2-game lead with 3 games to play in the division. Best team in the AFC and first-round bye. A lot of good things to be able to hang your hat on in the locker room after this one. Next game let's look at is Detroit and the LA Rams. This is a great ball game, guys. I talked about the officiating first and foremost. There's some Lion fans that I know they are very upset, and I don't want to get a call on Monday morning by the commissioner saying, oh, yeah, we kind of missed that one. I don't want that call. I want them to get it right during the game. But obviously 41-34, the final here. Joey, I'll start with you. At 8-6, are they in trouble? Are the Lions capable of holding it together? Are they possibly playoff eliminated? This being one of those key games that they needed to go on the road and win, they can't.
Well, I think they're on the outside looking in right now, but I think they'll find a way to get in. They have a couple games, tough games coming down the stretch, but I think 2 of them are at home, so I think they have a real opportunity to get in. But that being said, defensively, it was a rough outing, and again, this is a tough team to play at their place. I mean, because they can score on anybody. Matthew Stafford had a big game. They were able to run the ball with some efficiency. Now they lost Devontae Adams with that hamstring, which he was already dealing with a little bit. So I think he may not play again the rest of the season. They may just try to get him ready for the playoffs if possible. And I know Puka went out of the lineup, then he came back in. But, Puka is a special wide receiver from a physical standpoint and from a ability to make the tough catches all the time. And again, another team that has a really good defense. Now, Chicago was able to go up and down the field at times. Obviously, they were the key thing that the Rams did were they were able to keep Gibbs bottled up for the most part.
Yeah.
Okay. And anytime you do that, you have a real opportunity to win the game because, I would say he's one of the top 2 or 3 most explosive players in this league. So if you can keep him bottled up, it gives and kind of make them one-dimensional, have to throw the ball all the time, then you have a really good chance to beat this team.
Brian, he mentions Williams, he mentions Puka, he mentions Stafford. That's just on the offense. Rams defense gave a few bend but not break. They get a couple of calls, but good place to be now at 11-3.
Yeah, I mean, credit to Jared Goff in this game, right? Because it's sort of the homecoming. It's the, hey, these guys traded me away. They didn't want me sort of ordeal. And I obviously know he's not going to talk about that, but that's in the back of his mind. But this Lions offense played well enough to win the game, despite Jahmyr Gibbs not being able to run the ball, despite not getting, David Montgomery didn't have a really great game either, but they played well enough to win. Credit to Stafford and McVay and the offense on the other side, though. Kobe Parkinson's a huge part of this offense now. Mm-hmm. Corum and Kyron Williams are quietly maybe the best 1-2 punch in football over the last month. I know you can talk about Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, but both guys over 70 yards yet again. Both guys had touchdowns. I think Kyron Williams had 2. And we talk about Matthew Stafford. He's probably the MVP of the league, but that run game has been very efficient. They've taken a lot of pressure off of the passing game, which – Joey mentions Puka. He had another phenomenal outing. He's just, it's incredible what he and Stafford are able to do, the rapport they have with one another, even though Adams gets hurt, even though the Lions are scoring on the other side, it will too. But this Rams team, they're showing us, even when the defense doesn't show up, they can still win games. They can win the slugfest games. They find a way to just put a W on the board every single Sunday. And that's a good trait to have if you're a team that's planning on playing football through February.
Yeah, nice win for the Rams. They do it at home at SoFi. 41-34 is the final. Again, Rams with 11 wins. Detroit fails to get their 9th win. They're 8-6, and really, as Joey said, on the outside looking in here in terms of the playoffs with just a couple weeks to go. Next, we're looking at Carolina Panthers. They go on the road to New Orleans, and they lay an egg, guys. They had a chance with Tampa Bay losing on Thursday. They had plenty of time to get their act together and say, this is what we need to do. For a long time, Joey, I'll start with you. Tampa, at this point in the season, has been in first place or at least a tie for it, and they continue to do that even though they're not playing their best football. Carolina can't get a win against the Saints. They fall to 7-7. New Orleans raises their record to 4-10.
Carolina's playing up and down football. They're playing to the level of competition. If they play a good team, they usually play pretty good, with the exception of the 49ers a couple weeks ago. If they play a bad team, the team they should beat, They have not. They've struggled. But that being said, New Orleans Saints have the last 2 weeks have beat the 2 leaders in the division.
Yeah.
They beat Carolina. They beat Tampa in Tampa. So I'm going to give credit to them because they keep fighting. They're a young team. They don't know that they're out of the playoffs. They don't know they're not supposed to be beating these teams that have a chance to get into the playoffs and win. But, this says a lot more about Carolina, the maturity of that team, which tells you they are not a very mature football team because this was a very winnable game. You go to New Orleans, you have a little gumbo. You go on Bourbon Street the day before, and then you come in and relax. And guess what? They didn't handle that well. That's a sign of a really immature football team. They had everything to play for here.
Bryce Young, Brian, has 163 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He was sacked once. They rushed for 127 yards, kind of a blah game, right? The Saints only rushed for 81, but they end up winning the game. That's the biggest thing. Tyler Schuff has 272 yards. He's got 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He's sacked 5 times, but guess what? They had 20 points, and that's enough for them to win the ball game.
Yeah, funny enough, the New Orleans Saints are probably playing the best football of anybody in this division the last month. 2 of the last 5, the Panthers have played the Saints, and 2 of their last 3 losses are to the Saints. And it's just one of those things. If you want to go to the playoffs, you have to beat the bad teams, right? And it's just, you show up again. How you can show up and play like you did against the Rams, who we just raving about, in the last game, and how well they've played and how good they are and everything else. And then you beat them, and then to just lay an egg not once but twice against the New Orleans Saints this year is just, it's not good. I think, like Joey said, the maturity. I think some of that might be like leadership in the locker room from the coaching staff. Like, hey guys, it's a moment we're better than these guys. We know we're better than these guys. We got to play better than these guys. They haven't. They didn't. And Bryce Young kind of reverted back to the old Bryce Young, right? He's kind of gone back to the 100-something yards and a touchdown is all you're really going to get from him. But whoever plays the winner of the NFC South in the playoffs is licking their chops right now, because there's a good chance it might be the Seahawks or whoever it is in the NFC, but it's just I don't think anybody really wants to win the division, and I don't know if anybody really deserves to win the division at this point.
Well, tough times ahead for Carolina. They've got to win in order to be in the playoffs. It doesn't look like they're going to have enough juice if they don't win the division to be able to get in. Same with Tampa. So exciting there for the NFC South and what's going on. And obviously, congratulations to New Orleans for getting a win late in the season and not quitting or giving up in any way, shape, or form for the young coach. Tennessee ends up going on the road to San Francisco. It's a West Coast game that was close, guys, from a scoring perspective. Titans were in it. It was 17-10 at the half. 49ers have a big third quarter. They score 14 points, but guess what? Tennessee gets 14 in the fourth. A single touchdown there for the 49ers there at the end of the ball game was able to win it. 37-24 is the final. 49ers are 10-4. They are quietly putting themselves in position where you have to notice them. And Joy, I'll start with you. At 10-4, they're in the playoffs right now. If they were to begin today, they're not they are a wild card team. They're not going to win the division, but they're certainly playing well enough to be able to be a force to reckon with for the rest of the teams in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think this was Brock Purdy's best game since he's been back. I watched this game. This is one of the games I watched because I wanted to see how Tennessee played, and I'll get to them in a minute. But the 49ers, offensively played a pretty efficient game. Again, I thought this was Brock Purdy's best game. And they're another team who really don't have a number one receiver. So Brock was able to spread the ball around. And ever since he's been back playing, Kittles has had a lot better performance. With the other quarterback, Kittle wasn't really as involved in as much. But I think Purdy looks for him a lot more, and I think it shows up, which gives McCaffrey a lot more room. And he was able to run while not having a ton of yards rushing. He was able to run effectively, and again, he was able to catch the ball in the backfield when he needed to. Tennessee, they need a lot of help at a lot of positions. But watching this game, Cam Ward is going to be just fine. He's got a lot of ability. And the numbers don't show it, 170 yards, 18 for 29, the 2 touchdowns. But he's a tough-minded kid. He's got enough athleticism. He's got great arm angles to throw from. He reminds me a little bit of what Caleb Williams was last year, except I think he's ahead of what Caleb Williams was last year. Now, he'll probably need a Ben Johnson to come in there to help him. But Pollard ran the ball well. They did a lot of good things. They just don't have enough playmakers around him. So I would say right now Tennessee's kind of failing the young quarterback. But, they got rid of some players and they're looking for draft picks. And I don't expect them to be – they're building a new stadium. I don't expect them to be good, a real competitor until they get into that new stadium in 27. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But they aren't – you are what your record says you are, but I would take this team over both the Raiders and the Jets right now if they were playing.
Well, Brian, let's talk about the Niners keeping pace here from a divisional perspective. Not going to be easy to do. Just keep winning, keep knocking at the door, hope something happens. But you keep playing like this, you're going to be in. Yeah.
The Rams play the Seahawks next week, so one of those teams has to lose, right? So you get a chance to gain a game on at least one of those guys, but like Joey said, Brock Purdy played one of his better games as a pro. I think he was very consistent. He was good with his legs. He got out in the open field once, and he kind of faked a lateral. I don't think he really knew what to do. I think that was the only knock on the game that he had all day. But they're efficient in the red zone. They have been the last couple weeks. I mean, they scored 37 points. Obviously, they're doing something right when they get down in the red area. But Titans aren't a very good team. They found a little something with the run game over the last couple weeks, which is good. I think they need to do that earlier on, right, for their young quarterback to kind of keep some pressure off of him and keep him clean. But the Titans are looking for answers. They're trying to figure out what they have going into next year. Like Joey said, they're probably 2 draft classes and free agency classes away from being competitive again, especially when you look at the toast of the NFC right now, whether it's the Broncos or the Bills or the Patriots. They're a couple of years out from being up there with those guys, and that's where they want to be. But they got a very talented quarterback. They got a lot to figure out. And, like you said, this Niners team is sneakily very good. They're looking like a playoff team, and anything can happen once you get in the dance. But this is a team that's been consistent all year and had the privilege of playing under the radar because the other 2 teams in the division, that'd be the Seahawks and the Rams above them.
Well, speaking of the Seahawks, let's look at them. Again, the 49ers win. They're 10-4. They're 4-2 at home. The next game we're going to look at, Seattle, in a close one where they have to come from behind. They were trailing 13-6 at the half. They end up getting 9 fourth quarter points, a couple of field goals, obviously, and they win by 2. 18-16 is the final against an 8-6 Colts team. Brian, I'll start with you. Sam Darnold playing well enough to win, even though they didn't play well. They won. They get another important victory and keep pace with the Rams.
Yeah, kind of the opposite of what the Niners are, right? This team just, once they get on the plus side of the 50, they just really can't. They haven't been able to find the end zone as consistency as they did, earlier in the year. I think a lot of that is their run game. Charbonnet and Walker have really struggled up front. The numbers just aren't really there, and it's tough for your quarterback when you have to force the ball to guys like JSN and Cooper Kupp on the outside and try to make something happen. Having 25, 30-yard outputs, it's not really going to cut it. They're having to settle for field goals, and it's worked, right? They've had a couple games where they should have won, where they've kicked almost nothing but field goals. But this defense is legit, and we've talked about it before. They're up there with the Texans as far as, just being able to stop the run, play the pass. It doesn't really matter. It helps when there's a 44-year-old coming out of retirement on the other side, right? It makes it a little bit easier as far as the game plan. But, yeah, this is a game Seattle needed to keep pace in the division. It was one they got. Colts gave a run for their money. I don't know if they had a lot of juice in the building or what it was, but, a lot different Indianapolis team from the one we had week 1, the one we were talking about, with MVP Jonathan Taylor and MVP Daniel Jones and, not having a blemish on their record for the first, month and a half. It was, just how far the mighty have fallen in Indianapolis.
Joey, Brian brings up an interesting point. You got a 41-year-old. You got Phillip Rivers literally coming off the street at a high school and getting a chance to play. Let's talk a little bit about the fanfare of that, the significance from the NFL perspective, but then going to a team that really needs someone to play well and try to get the spark back in the roster and in the locker room so that they can start winning some games again.
Well, they were desperate. And what I mean by that, once they lost Daniel Jones, the other quarterback was on IR with the orbital injury. They were really searching. Now, Riley Leonard, when he came in for Daniel Jones the other week, didn't play bad. He started off slow, but he continuously got better, and he did some really good things. And I think he may be the quarterback that starts next season for them. So it's good to have a veteran quarterback like a Phillip Rivers who came in off the street, but he knew the offense like the back of his hand. He ran the same offense for his the high school that he coached, and his son was the quarterback, and he ran that offense. So this was an easy transition from that standpoint for him. But again, you're talking about a 44-year-old quarterback who now won't be eligible for the Hall of Fame. While he was eligible this year, he won't be eligible until 2031. But you know what? He didn't play bad. Now he probably played as well as he's going to play. And the reason why I say that is now the teams playing him now, they have tape on him. They know what he can do efficiently, what he can't do efficiently after 5 years. And I was speaking with a coach last week who said, if I'm playing the Colts, I'm blitzing him as much as possible because if he's under center, his ability to get the ball, especially on the spread when he's got to run 4 yards to give a handoff, is going to be a lot slower than it was 5 years ago. So it's the little things like that which tell you where age and attrition can be a little bit of a factor that now is on tape, with other teams. So it'll be interesting. But when Daniel got hurt, before Daniel got hurt, I said I would be surprised if the Colts won another game, and I'm still of that mindset. I think they're probably going to finish up 8-9 when it's all said and done.
They're 8-6 right now. They're on their way, and Seattle ends up with their 11th win of the season. Good job, with the Seahawks and finding a way to win. They're 5-2 at home. Only got another couple of games left here in the season. They got a chance to win the division, especially with the Rams coming up. Last game that we'll look at from a Sunday perspective, the evening game is Minnesota goes on the road to Dallas. Vikings didn't have a whole heck of a lot to play for, but they sure played well. 34-26 is the final. They beat the Cowboys. Cowboys fall to 6-7-1. Vikings are 6-8. Nice win, Joey, for Minnesota, or is this a bad loss for Dallas?
Both. I think Minnesota needs JJ McCarthy needed this win, but he's a young quarterback. He just needs to play. He's been up and down, and this was an up week for him. They were able to he was the thing about JJ is when he can play with his feet and get out of trouble, then he can do a lot of good because he's got enough arm talent to go down the field when the pocket's clean. And when he can get outside and be effective with a run pass option. I mean, so all that's effective. And the Cowboys, it was bad for them because if they had any hope of getting in the playoffs, they needed to win this game. Okay. And defensively, their holes in their defense really showed its head again. And again, they finished this game without a sack. If that tells you anything, they finished this game without a sack. So, it's been nice for all you Cowboy fans. It's been nice hoping again for like the 30th season in a row. You're hoping that you have that promise of next year of getting into the playoffs. So good luck with that.
They're like the Cubs, aren't they? Wait till next year. Dak still is playing well, Brian, but obviously when a defense gives up more points than what you're able to put on the board yourself, they have been scoring in bunches, but it was slowed down a little bit. Vikings saw something on film. 26 points isn't enough to beat the Vikings, or at least not on this night.
We could talk about how Brandon Aubrey is almost in field goal range the second you get past the 50-yard line. But at some point, you got to find the end zone, right? They did not find the end zone very often on Sunday night, and I think that was kind of their downfall. Give credit to this Vikings defense, right? It's another thing where they're still playing hard. They're playing hard for their coach, for their young quarterback, for their coordinator, who's one of the best in the business. The bend but don't break mentality, right? They gave a lot of field goals. And they trusted their offense to play well, which is kind of going to be the mantra that was last year, and it was this year with the young quarterback. Let's just, give your team a chance to win some games. JJ did more than that, on Sunday. It's good to see him improving, right? He's moving in the right direction. It's good. There's some positives there if you're a Vikings fan, and kind of calming down a little bit and wiping the sweat from their brow because what he'd seen so far was not a lot to write home about, but. The Cowboys just not quite being good enough has kind of been the story of where they've been for the last couple of years. Dak Prescott played a pretty good game. Obviously no touchdowns, but a lot of yards. He moved the ball when they needed to. They just weren't as efficient running the ball as they had been on the season. And it's just kind of the story of what the Cowboys are, right? They're not quite good enough. They weren't quite good enough against the Packers. They weren't quite good enough against the Vikings. They have been quite good enough against a lot of teams, the Eagles week 1. So, you still got a decent roster, good receiving core, a lot to build on next year. But Joey said they had no sacks, right? And, you need to hopefully add some guys in the draft to maybe figure it out and bolster up this defense a little bit.
Well, nice road win there for the Vikings. Let's finish up with the Monday night game that just ended a little while ago, right as we were going on the air. Pittsburgh holds on to win. They have 21 second-half points. They end up winning 28-15. Pittsburgh is now 8-6. Miami falls to 6-8. Pittsburgh plays well enough to win, guys. They Aaron Rodgers ends up with 224 yards in the air. He's got 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's a nice victory. 135 yards on the ground. Joe, I'll start with you. What does this mean in terms of keeping pace and doing everything you can to stay ahead of the Ravens here with 3 games left in the season?
Well, I think it's a big win for the Steelers. I mean, it was certainly a cold weather game, and we know what the Dolphins are in cold weather. They've always been that way. They're 0-14 for the last 14 games, and temperatures under 40 degrees. So that tells you about the mindset. And I know that's something they have to try to change to win, especially if you're you can't win consistently at home. But for the Steelers, I mean, Aaron Rodgers was 23 or 27, so he missed 4 passes all night. They were able to run the ball for well over 100 yards. Defensively, they were bend but don't break, especially early. The key to Miami is being able to run the ball. When they have to throw the ball, they're really inconsistent without the big play threat of the kid who's out, and they only have Waddle there, and they're able to double Waddle and Achane, who led them in receiving tonight and rushing. They're hamstrung offensively. Now they came in on like a 5-game winning streak, something like that. So this was a big win for the Steelers at home. They needed it. This loss probably puts the Dolphins out of the playoffs. I think they had a sliver of hope before this game. So it'll be interesting. The AFC is really interesting this year, but I don't think a losing record will or a 500 record will get you close to the playoffs.
No, it's going to be tough for them. They aren't officially eliminated. I haven't updated the standings there, but they're as close as they need to be. Brian, your thoughts here on both Miami and on Pittsburgh, the significance of the Steelers staying ahead of not only the Ravens at 7-7, but just really that division in and of itself. One team with the losing record might win it, just like in the NFC South.
It's a home game against a warm weather team in December, right? Like Joey said, you got to win these games, and they were more physical up front. You could see that from the get-go, right? The Dolphins didn't do much of anything through the first 3 quarters. They were able to move the ball late, kind of when it was out of reach, but at that point, you're kind of playing, hey, on defense, let's keep it in front of us, let's run this clock, and let's trust our run game. So that's to be expected. The Dolphins, nice little win streak. I think they'd won 4 in a row at this point, comes to an end. It's unfortunate. They just had such a poor start to the season. Obviously, Tyreek Hill gets hurt, and a lot of things happen, and you weren't sure. We're still kind of not sure what the situation is going to be with Tua going forward, but a lot of questions in Miami. The Steelers had some answers tonight, and that was good for them, especially with the Ravens getting a win. They needed this to stay ahead in the division. They're thinking playoffs, right? They're hoping playoffs, and they kind of had a medical scare with TJ Watt earlier in the week, so hopefully everything's good with them. But the defense showed up to play. That's what you need to do if you want to win. If you're the Pittsburgh Steelers going forward, Rodgers was efficient. This is kind of the textbook of if the Steelers are going to win a football game, this is what it needs to look like.
Well, let's take a look at the standings now that Week 15 is officially in the books. Let's go backwards this time, guys. I'll go NFC and then AFC, and your comments in terms of who's there and who's not there and what you expected from earlier in the season. In the NFC West, you've got the Rams and the Seahawks both tied at 11-3. We mentioned the San Francisco 49ers just got one game back. They are at 10-4. In the NFC South, Tampa and Carolina both stay the same. They both lose. They're 7-7. And they are tied for first place in that division. NFC North, leapfrog time. The Chicago Bears at 10-4. Green Bay Packers at 9-4-1. They're the only team, along with Dallas Cowboys, that have a tie that is competitive and at least has an opportunity to make it into the playoffs. That tie will obviously be a determining factor here with just 3 games left. Philadelphia Eagles are ahead in the NFC East. The next closest team is the Cowboys. They have losing records at 6-7-1. And the AFC West, Denver at 12-2, and then the Chargers are at 10-4. In the AFC South, Jacksonville at 10-4, with Houston at 9-5. Pittsburgh is now 8-6. Ravens are 7-7. That's in the AFC North. And finally, the AFC East is 11-3. New England Patriots 10-4 is Buffalo. A lot of close races, guys. Joe, I'll start with you. What do you think?
Next week is going to be a big week for a lot of teams. That's what this tells me. Again, it's going to go down to the wire. It's going to go down to the wire, and the NFC East up there is NFC North is going to go to the wire. There, it's going to NFC South is going to go to the wire. The AFC North is going to go to the wire. I mean, so you got some big games coming up. And obviously the NFC West, that's going to come down to the wire. So you have some divisions where, they're going to play all 17 weeks. I don't think anybody's going to be sitting out in some of these divisions when push comes to shove in these last couple games. So I think the NFL is happy. The schedule makers are happy. The fans of those teams are happy. So it'll be exciting going down the stretch.
Brian, let's end with you. What do you think about the scheduling and where we are here in Week 15?
It was set up perfectly because we got the potential for multiple, switches as far as who's on top of the divisions coming up over the next 3 weeks. It's going to be interesting to see who wins it. It's going to be war of attrition and who's the healthiest, right? I know we talked about it at the beginning of the show. A lot of injuries. Going to see what the Packers are next week. The Bears are kind of in the opposite sense. They play each other. We got the Ravens and the Steelers, and we got the Panthers playing the Bucks. Two divisions that they're as competitive as can be with a bunch of bad teams hanging around. So we'll see what happens. A lot of good football left to be played, and a lot of multi-box going to be on the television next Sunday for me.
And I was going to say certainly you will be a part of that. Well, a lot of verticality as well. We went a whole show without talking about verticality, but we do want to thank everybody for being a part of the show. Thank you for tuning in to 100 Yards of Football. This has been the Week 15 NFL Wrap-Up Show with Joey Clinkscales with Brian LeBel. I'm Harper LeBel. We appreciate you being a part of the show. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the week and get ready for Week 16 coming up. Some great NFL action. Have a